10:30 to 11:30.
All right, hello everyone, and let's start on the second part of our tutorial for week 2. We're recording Springfield. Now, someone came up and asked again about how you can print out your test questions. Anyone has a problem with that? So just quickly, you would go to study desk, and you go to your assessment, and under assessment you'll find that you scroll down to your online test 1, written assignment, and online test 2. Each one of these has this icon with a tick. You just need to click there and it will take you to, so if you have started already, it say continue the last attempt. You click on that, and then you get your questions, 20 questions. Now, these are randomly allocated, so not everyone is going to get the same questions, but there will be some overlap. And you can view that for printing. And just right-click and go into print or save. Okay? Any questions about that? The same thing you would do for the online test 2. And please make sure that you do that today, so that you go through them slowly, and so you can actually focus on each question 1 or 2 at a time. The assignment, again at the top of the page you'll have your written assignment details, the written assignment template. So that's the file you're going to use to upload eventually with your answers in it. And what you need to do is to again click here for your scenarios, continue the last attempt. And what you want to do is simply, so you have question 1, question 2. Those are your scenarios 1 and 2. So you just cut and paste into your template. Okay? Please make that, try to do that as soon as possible, today if possible. All right? So each one again will get different scenarios. Not everyone is going to get the same scenarios. But our tutorial today is going to help us understand better what's required for this assignment. So, again, we're going to use this Wentworth-Miller method. We have introduced this before. So it's always about looking at the parties, looking at their objectives, looking at what kind of premise or legal cause of action they're going to use. For our purposes for the assignment, that's the easiest part, because there's only one thing you're going to use, which is dispute resolution methods, whether alternative or litigation as well. Whether you want to say litigation works or doesn't work. Okay? Let's look at an example. Again, the parties, the objectives, the premises, not much as the elements, but we have to still identify the issues. Just a quick rehash on what we did back in Toowoomba on Monday. So we said because litigation results in delays, costs, and a lot of ignorance of the law or intimidation from going to courts, more and more we find that we are moving towards things like tribunals, sort of specialist tribunals, even like the QCAT, okay, or things like the ombudsman or alternative dispute resolution. And these dispute resolution methods could vary, as we said, from left to right. So you start from the most flexible ones. These are the non-adjudicative ones: negotiation, mediation, expert appraisal, independent expert appraisal, also things like case presentation and conciliation. But as you move towards a more formal adjudicative situation, you can end up with things like arbitration, or even the most formal of them is litigation, which basically means going to court. This is the diagram that you have in your textbook. That's enough for you to make a start and really score very well on the assignment. But as we said in Toowoomba, there is a required reading. Okay, the required reading is chapter 3 of. So if we just have a look at where we can find that. So let's just go out and go back to our course activity page. So this is what a student would see. You can go to resources, and under resources you'll find an assignment overview, all of these things for the resources for the assignment, including this thing here called alternative methods of dispute resolution, Astor and Chinken. Now that's a required Yeah, just open it. That's the required reading for this assignment. There we go. You can save it, you can print it, okay? I'm not sure if we can get it as a PDF from here. Yeah. So that's what you have, and that's the required reading for the assignment. Now this actually gives you more than just what's in the textbook. So the textbook talks about only these ones, and this chapter introduces more. So this is a summary of that chapter. The definitions, what is an ADR? Not that you have to use it in your assignment, but just to explain what we understand ADRs to represent. Again, the 3 types, similar to what we have in our textbook. Okay? And they go beyond that to talk about these hybrid types. So the point here is that you're welcome to use these hybrid dispute resolution processes because they are in this chapter 3, this required reading. So I'm happy for you as well to go there. All right. So we talked about these different types and how they differ on the third party. And we said that your job is really to see, first of all, whether you're going to go to facilitative, advisory, or adjudicative processes. And once you get in there, there are always 2 options, so you have to choose one of those. Okay? So again, the idea is that not to just give me an answer, just to say, these are my 2 methods. So remember, you have 2 scenarios, and you have to use 2 ADRs or dispute resolution methods, including litigation and negotiation, for each one of these scenarios. But you have to end up with 4 different methods. So you have to use 2 methods for the first scenario, and if you find overlap between the first and the second, you just simply say that I would have actually used the same method again, but because I've used it already for the first scenario, I'm going to now use the second best alternative, and so on. You need 4 different ones. Okay. Let's look at what we did in Toowoomba in relation to this scenario. So remember, this is not an essay. Okay? This is a problem-solving question. In the exam, you'll find a much longer one. Same thing with our tutorials once we start going to torts and contracts. For now, you just have 2 or 3 sentences, so that it's an easy thing for you to start on. So, it says we have 2 large oil conglomerates are accusing each other of forming cartels to try to gain an advantage over the other. In many other areas, they cooperate well to run their businesses, e.g. delivering fuel and so on. They need to resolve the dispute quickly to avoid a consumer backlash that they might not be able to control. So what we did in Toowoomba is to say, okay, we start by asking ourselves, who are the parties? We can see that there are 2 companies, 2 large oil conglomerates. These are the parties. One of them is going to be suing the other if they go to court. Great. What do they want? What are their objectives? You can see that there are accusations about forming cartels, so maybe something in relation to losing their market share, so they want compensation. What are the issues? So we said issues are about tension. So you can see that they want to get this compensation, but at the same time, they want to maintain a good relationship between each other because they cooperate on many other areas, including delivery of fuel. So they want to resolve this issue with cartels, but they will still want to continue cooperating with each other. So there's tension in that area. Also, that they want to resolve the dispute quickly to avoid any customer backlash. And we said, as we said in Toowoomba, you can infer from that also that they want to do it privately. Okay? So that they don't let consumers know about the problems that they have between them. So, how do you then go and find which alternative dispute resolution methods are the best? Okay? Because they want to continue cooperating, you don't want something that is adversarial, which is usually the adjudicative type of processes, like litigation, for example. Okay? So what you want is something that's non-adversarial, maybe inquisitorial. And what's the main problem with what we have right here is that we still don't know whether there are cartels or not. It's just accusations. Okay? So the first thing you have to think about how you can establish whether there is in fact any cartel behavior or not. And we said that the best thing to do in this instance is someone advising you. So you can have either conciliation or expert determination. And we said in this kind of situation you need an expert because the expert is going to have an inquisitorial role. They're going to go beyond what the parties give them and try to find the facts on their own. Okay? They can establish in fact whether there was any cartel behavior, and if so, what needs to be done. Once we got these facts sorted through this expert determination, then we can go back and look at something simpler. For example, negotiation. Okay? In this case, negotiation is likely to work. There's a power balance between the conglomerates. They are both big companies. They can sit down and negotiate with each other. It's not a David-Goliath situation. So that's what you do for your assignment. So the first paragraph is going to be, this is not, again, an essay. Okay? So first thing you're going to say is that this is what we have. These are the parties. These are their objectives. Okay? The parties, the objectives, and the issues. Once you're done with that in your first paragraph, you start your second paragraph by saying, this is the first method I'm going to recommend, expert determination, and this is why. So in particular, because the issue of cartels, and we don't have the facts. And then you go through the advantages and disadvantages of this expert determination method, but not in abstract. You have to always link it back to what you have in the scenario. And then you move on to the third paragraph where you have your second method, the same story for negotiation, for example. Why negotiation would work here? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? And the last paragraph is just a simple conclusion summarizing what you have recommended and why. Let's look at a different example for today. So the analytical structure we're going to use to analyze these things for the assignment are the same that we're going to use throughout the whole course, all the way until the very end. It's always about who are the parties, what are their objectives, what are the issues, and once we have identified these issues, what would be the best dispute resolution methods to get us to resolve these issues. Here is Annabelle. And she has been working for your company for 20 years. She has developed some difficult personality traits, and she does not really fit into the firm. In addition, the work she has been doing has been largely taken over by computers. You wish to make her position redundant, but are afraid that she will have a huge redundancy claim. Okay. So we need some volunteer to take us through how you go through the Wentworth-Miller method and how you arrive at the issues, and then how you can recommend two dispute resolution methods to resolve those issues. Who wants to start us off? Okay, so let's start from maybe that person at the very end. What's your name? Sorry? Janine? Okay, Janine, would you like just to tell us who the parties are? If we go to court, who's going to take whom to court? Who's going to move the cause of action in court? Annabelle. Against me, against the company, against you. Yes? Okay. What does Annabelle want? Compensation. Okay, someone says Annabelle is after compensation. For what?
Redundancy.
Compensation, someone says for redundancy. Okay? What do you want?
To get rid of Annabelle.
You want to get rid of Annabelle, but not pay redundancy. Yes? So, what are the issues here? What's the first issue you can identify in this situation? The biggest issue here.
Annabelle's personality.
So someone says the biggest issue is Annabelle's personality. She has difficult personality traits. Someone else, yes?
I think another big issue is the fact that she's been working with the company for 20 years.
Okay.
Because she says, I've served the company for 20 years, therefore I can ask for a large
Okay. So someone else says she actually worked for the company for 20 years. That's also an issue. Why is it an issue? Do you understand why it's an issue? Issue why? Where's the tension? Issues are created by tension between two parties. Where's the tension? Annabelle says 20 years. You say what? So what? Not enough for redundancy pay or large redundancy pay. Yes? That's where the tension comes from. The other one, when we talked about difficult personality, why is that an issue here? You want to get rid of her. What's the problem?
She doesn't fit into the firm, and
Yeah.
work takes place by computers as well.
So where's the tension? You want to get rid of her, but she'll give you a hard time trying to get rid of her because she has this personal trait. You know, she's going to put up a fight. What else? What else is there in terms of issues?
She might have broken any regulations.
She might have what?
She hasn't broken any regulations.
She hasn't broken any regulations. Yes, but again, from what you read up there, what is the biggest issue here? Yeah, that's one thing. You know, that's one thing that we have, that, you know, she's not required by the firm anymore, either because of the culture, she doesn't fit the culture, or simply because her work is not required because it's automated already. She's not productive. But what is really the biggest problem here? What is the biggest issue between Annabelle and you? So it is the money. Yes? If I give her $10,000 billion, would she go?
Yes.
Absolutely. But I don't have that kind of money. So what if I give you $1? Still not going. Okay, $10, and so on. It's the money. It's always the money. She would be very happy to leave if you give her enough money. Yes? But you don't want to give her enough money, or you don't have money enough to give her. And you actually don't know what kind of redundancy she would require. Yes? Okay. So, how do you proceed? Which dispute resolution method you have to start with? What is the first thing you have to resolve? How much money do I have to give her by regulation? How much do I owe her? How do you find that out? Yes? Sorry? Okay, someone says you can go to someone called the Fair Work Ombudsman. Okay? Anyone has internet access, or should we go there together? Let's go there together quickly.
What is the ombudsman again?
Come again?
What was the ombudsman again?
Fair Work. So let's just try to find that online. So what do you write? Something like Fair Work Ombudsman. What else? Redundancy. Let's see if that works. Okay. Here's redundancy, Fair Work Ombudsman. What are we trying to get from the ombudsman? How did you find out that there's a Fair Work Ombudsman?
By being in Fair Work.
Okay, so you've worked for them? Or you have been to that?
I've been through Fair Work.
Okay, you have been through that Fair Work thing. All right. If you didn't, would you be able to go online and Google something? Would that be too difficult? Employment, redundancy, Australia, it will come up. The first thing you see they talk about here is genuine redundancy. They want to find out whether Annabelle has genuine redundancy. What's the key point in relation to genuine redundancy? That her work is what?
Doesn't need to be done by anyone else.
Because now it's done by computers.
So her role essentially gets eliminated like
So you're not trying to dismiss her this way. It's a genuine redundancy. Great. What would the ombudsman help you with? Would they be able to help you with how much she owes you? Or how much you owe her? Okay, so maybe that's part of the contract. If there is an enterprise agreement, okay? Do you need any dispute resolution method for this?
I don't know.
Okay. What do you think these people are going to do for you? So once they tell you how much you owe her, what next? You scroll down, you'll find more stuff about how you go through this process. Okay, for example here, help resolving workplace issues. How do they help?
through mediation.
Yeah. So one thing here they talk about, for example, is working with you to resolve workplace issues. And they talk about mediation. Okay? Do you think in this situation, negotiation would be a good idea? Negotiation is even simpler than mediation. Why don't we just negotiate with Annabelle? What's the problem with that? Because of her personality issues. She has a very difficult personality. You think you can convince her? You can sit and talk to her? That's one side of the story. What is the other argument? She has a difficult personality. But what's the other problem with negotiation here?
You're trying to reduce how much she's got to.
Sure. But what's the other problem compared to our previous example of the two oil conglomerates?
They don't want to work with each other afterwards.
Huh?
They don't want to work with each other afterwards.
One thing is that they don't want to work with each other afterwards. But what's the problem with negotiation here?
There's evidence of actual redundancy.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
There's evidence of redundancy.
There's evidence of redundancy, but what's the problem with the parties here?
There's no common aim result of one.
So there's a David and a Goliath. There is a power imbalance. You think negotiation in that situation is going to end up with what? Most likely, you telling her how it's going to be. She doesn't have much to bargain with. Not like two conglomerates fighting each other, yeah?
And the issue is that there is this, if it's taken down on paper, which would obviously have to, if it's a redundancy, if she's been shortchanged too much, it can also go to the Q cash, and therefore you end up paying out more money than you would have had.
So, no point in doing something that will backfire. So, what do you think the first thing you would recommend here? Mediation would be a reasonable thing? Once you know that there's a fair work ombudsman, and these people are there to help employers, and there's even an employer hotline, they will help you with how much you have to pay. Then you would probably engage them in a sort of mediation with Annabelle, simply because she has this difficult personality.
I'm not trying to find her on different grounds then, like for her personality.
Okay? So once we have gone through mediation, okay? Now you understand why you would do mediation, right? So you'd say things about her personality, things about the power imbalance. Once you have done mediation, what next? It could succeed and you're done, great, or it could fail. What happens after that?
She can pursue a further Q cash.
Okay,
Sign off on the agreement.
so she doesn't want to sign off on anything.
Oh, okay.
What do you do next? Go to court. You can go to court. Do you agree? In this situation, do you think that litigation would be a reasonable option? If you have someone with a difficult personality, if you came to them through a third party that's a neutral third party, like the ombudsman, and they came up with this mediation process and they told them this is the best thing that you can get, and this is how much you should get, but they're still not happy. What do you do? Are you afraid now to still go to litigation? So the point is, again, litigation is not a bad thing. But litigation should be at the very end of your options. Don't start with litigation. In fact, because you went through these processes, that becomes evidence, in a way, against her. So it shows the court that this person is not reasonable. See? So the idea is, it's like game theory. We're not going to go through game theory. But the idea is, you have to start with the simplest. If you can negotiate, negotiate. If it doesn't negotiate, if it's difficult because of the reasons we talked about, try to move from left to right. At the very end, you come to litigation. That's fine. Because if you have no other options, you have to go to litigation. But you never start from that point. You never start from litigation. You try to build your case, build your evidence, show flexibility and willingness to find a reasonable outcome, and then use that against your the other party. All right. So we said the parties are Annabelle and you. We said that Annabelle wants this money and you don't want to pay, basically. And the issues, as we said, is her personality, the genuine redundancy, and the fact that you really don't know how much you have to pay her. Okay? And from there you start arguing as to what would be the starting point If you, for example, don't know about the Fair Work Ombudsman, I'm not going to take that against you. Okay? But you have to go through the same process. What would be reasonable as a starting point? Some of you might say, actually, you need to find an expert. That's fine. You don't know who the expert is. That's fine. Or you can say, I really don't need an expert here because it's not inquisitorial. I just need someone to give me advice, like a counselor. Just how much redundancy, you know? Once you got that, then you would go to things like, even if someone talks about negotiation, that's fine. But you have to tell me what the problem with that is. Advantages that you have to say that in this case, it will be difficult because she has this difficult personality or because of this power imbalance between the parties. I don't mind if you go somewhere which is not the best option, but you show me why it's not the best option. It's okay. You're not going to get an HD, but you'll get a good mark. All right. Any questions so far? Now we know that we have 2 scenarios that you have to download. You know that there's a template that you have to use. And you know, more importantly than anything else, that you're not writing me an essay. What will fail you, you're going to fail this assignment if you write an essay, i.e., if you simply say, I will just pick any 2 methods, okay, negotiation and conciliation, and then I'm just going to write what I have on the internet or what I have on in this required reading or in the textbook. Just put the advantages, don't even look at the scenarios. I don't have even to download the scenarios, you know. I'm just going to give you something abstract. That's how you fail this assignment. Any questions? Yes? No? All right. So the last thing I want to remind you of is that there's something called a formative assessment, which means that I'm happy to look at your assignment draft before you submit online for your summative assessment. I will look at your formative assessment, the draft, but I'm not going to be the person who's going to mark the summative assessment. So hopefully I'll be able to give you some hints so that you can score higher when you submit the final draft. All right, we'll leave it here, and I will see you next week.